going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Just moving the microphone, get it in my face. And give you guys a few seconds to join what we're doing. So if you haven't already done so, take a moment, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. All you need to do is tap the subscribe button. Make sure you press to get notifications. This way you are notified when we go live. Also, another real simple way to keep in touch with us is to text the word YouTube to 76626. That will put you on our notification list. And make sure you follow us on all of our social media. You can see it up in the screen there. We have Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. It's all at RDAP Dan. So all you need to do is go to any of the social media outlets and you can follow us on social media. CJ does a lot of video posting for us onto Instagram. So you do get to see a lot of the everything other than this type of stuff on Instagram, a little bit behind the scenes, the day-to-days. A lot of fun. You get to see a lot of Oliver and Einstein on there, which are my two boys, my dogs. Today's video, also before I forget, let me mention Pigeonly. If you're looking to save money on your inmate calls, if you're trying to, right now, an inmate phone call, one phone call ends up costing $3.15. With Pigeonly, that same phone call will become 90 cents. They also give you the ability to, if you want to send pictures, but you don't have the time to print them, go out and mail them. You can actually do this right through your computer. There's a link for Pigeonly that you can create an account, send all of your pictures right there. You can send articles. So maybe you're on our blog and you found something useful and you want to send that information off to your loved one. All of that is right through Pigeonly. There's a link in the description of this video, and CJ will be posting it also in the live chat as well. So today's video is a little bit different. And I accidentally just closed it off on my screen over here. We received an email from a viewer, and the viewer's asking some questions, and the questions are really good questions. We get emails all of the time, and I thought about, obviously I'm going to answer the email, but I did not want to, originally I didn't want to turn this into a video. Some of the stuff, the questions that he's asking, it's pretty deep, and I thought about it. And part of what makes this whole experience unique and spending time with you guys is being transparent and really sharing where I was, my mindset was before prison, during prison, after prison. I've really done as much as I can to keep that transparent with all of you, to keep you in the loop and to make it really hit home for some of you that we're not all as different as we think. A lot of the things that we go through are something that a lot of us go through together. So that's going to be today's video, and that's coming up next. All right, now that we got my kick-ass trailer out of the way, we can go ahead and jump into this video. So I'm going to read this email, okay? I should have had it posted up on the screen, but I didn't have time for all that because the email came in, I think it was yesterday. All right, so here's the email. Dan, I've been following your journey for the last 2 years, and this email is posted in the description of the video as well. Dan, I've been following your journey for the last 2 years. I have some questions that I would like to ask for my own personal curiosity. If any of this offends you, I apologize in advance. I'm a white-collar guy under federal investigation for over 2 years, and I feel a strong connection when I see you speak. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. This is why I'm asking with hopes of understanding my own thought process with more clarity. All right, first question. You often talk about how much you have changed due to spending time in federal prison. Can you elaborate more on that, on what this means for you, and what was it that changed? All right, so, I'm going to do my best to actually explain this descriptive because, it's easy to say, well, before prison, I was a manipulator, or I was a liar, or I was an idiot, whatever it is. So to explain that, before prison, and we actually did a blog on this. I should have gotten the blog ready for this, but I did a blog on this maybe about 2 weeks ago. And before prison, I'd gotten so accustomed to doing, saying anything that I needed to do or say in order to basically get what I needed, wanted. to the point where manipulation is just a word. But for me, what that meant was I feel like I studied human nature because of my sales background so in depth that I never really had true empathy. For family, for friends, I could understand empathy. I could see what you were going through. I could see what was causing stress in someone's life. I could see where empathy existed, but because I didn't really feel empathy, I had to pretend. I had to play empathy. So I was very empathetic, but in a way where it wasn't real or it wasn't natural. I would use it to my advantage. I would wait till I would see somebody doing something or acting a certain way, and if I was in sales, I would wait till they would start asking, maybe buying questions, and then I would start relating to them and understanding their situation. When really, in my mind, the whole time, I was just thinking, when are they going to give me an opening to strike? How am I going to take advantage of this situation? So manipulation for me was a very strong, rooted survival technique because it's how I made my living. And there's no excuse. There's no excuse saying, well, everybody manipulates to a certain extent. Okay, that might be true. Anytime you're persuading somebody to do something, there's a level of manipulation. But my intent was to seek and destroy. I didn't care at what cost. I didn't care what it was doing to other people. And it put people in a lot of poor positions very often. My interest was never what's best for the customer. My interest was never, how is this going to affect other people around me if I make this decision? The decisions that I made were always in the moment. They were usually immediate gratification, and it was all about what suits me best. That's a very good description of me. Basically, I was not a good person. I would lie to myself and say I was, and I would tell myself I love my kids and I love my family and I want to do good things for people. And really, at the end of the day, I did all of the opposite. I lied, cheated, stealed. I did everything you could imagine that somebody says are inherently poor decision-making skills that will end up leading you possibly to prison. So my level of manipulation and getting so comfortable with it, it became second nature to the point where it was really even in my blind. I was so used to lying to myself about the decisions and choices I would make that I even convinced myself that this was the only way I could survive or get on to the next level. And it leveled everybody in my life. I've lost so many friends over it, relationships. I've caused hurt and anguish with my children. Thank God I'm working my ass off to repair that. And it just really made me not a good person. I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. I didn't sleep well. I was riddled with anxiety. It was just a horrible lifestyle that I perpetuated, and I never tried to get out of it. It wasn't until federal prison. It wasn't until going to prison, and really, let's forget about prison. It was RDAP, the Residential Drug Abuse Program, and even manipulating my way into prison, or even manipulating my way into the Residential Drug Abuse Program. Hopefully you're not manipulating your way into prison. But manipulating my way into the substance abuse program, I smoked marijuana, I drank on the weekends, and I really, really used that to my advantage to get access into this program, thinking, well, shit, who doesn't want to take a year off of their sentence by saying they're, a drug addict? I smoked marijuana. I didn't think that I had a substance abuse problem. I thought, oh, this is just weed. This is different than heroin and cocaine and crack and all the other drugs out there. And that's up for debate. There's a lot of people that will say, marijuana is a gateway into something else. So I'm not here to debate what drug is harsher than others, but I used marijuana to get into the residential drug abuse program, thinking that I was just going to hop in this program, tell them what they wanted to hear, get a quick year off, and move on. And what I learned from the residential drug abuse program, it had so much more to do with them holding you accountable. And when I say them, your peers, other inmates, staff members, all of these scamming, manipulative, pretending that you understand empathy and striking, all these things that I just said that I used to do, what I came to learn is I wasn't as good at it as I thought. What I realized was most of people that we come across us in our daily walks of life just aren't going to hold us accountable. They don't care enough. They're like, well, he's probably lying, or he sounds like he's full of shit, but I don't want to engage. I don't want to engage in this conflict. I don't want to be the person to tell him, so let him go on about his way, just bullshitting his way through life. That's his problem. Well, I found out it was my problem, and in RDAP is something that they exposed very quickly, and that's a whole nother story. Maybe one day we'll have RDAP stories. But that was a situation that I put myself in that caused so much anguish. And getting called out on that constantly in RDAP was a rude awakening. They made me see things about myself, and they started questioning some of the questions that were just asked in this email that I just asked you. It was so hard to honestly answer those questions because you have to come clean with yourself. I've got a couple of clients right now that are really, really going through this. One of them, a local client, and they're really going through some serious situations in their life. It's a husband and wife. The manipulation, the lying, the blaming other people, trying to find a way to escape the situation they're in. And it's constantly like looking into the mirror for myself, because it's a daily reminder of, it's so easy to identify it. When you've walked that life, when you live that lifestyle, you can pick other people out of a crowd that are doing the same type of manipulation that you were doing. And a lot of you that are watching this video, I know you relate to this, because I hear it from not just our clients, but our viewers all of the time, that they resonate with what we're saying because they feel like we're talking about them. Well, I probably am talking about a lot of you. And the fact that you recognize that, that's okay. If it makes you feel really uncomfortable, that's also really okay. If you're feeling uncomfortable and you're taking yourself outside of the box, that means the ability to start growing and healing exists. The second part of that question was, what was it that changed? The thing that changed was I realized that this is part of who I am. I have this desire to overachieve in different areas. And the difference is once I learned that if I do it the right way, oh my God, it feels so much better. Taking my time, not allowing myself to make a decision in the heat of the moment. Meaning if somebody came up to me and says, Dan, I got a great business opportunity for you. We're going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to make millions and millions of dollars. What do you think about that? Well, the old me would have been like, let's do it, without putting any thought, without putting any homework into it. And the new me is like, well, let's take a step back and let's get to the beginning of this. And how are we going to apply this? How is it going to work? What's the foundation going to be built on? What's our reputation going to look like if we do this? It's really hard to rebuild your reputation. I completely fucking trashed my reputation prior to prison. It's like prison gave me this fresh start to have this new reputation where I was known as the piece of shit that has transformed his life using what he knows to make a difference in somebody else's life, to try to explain to them what it was like being there. And some of you may watch this and go, well, you're probably just still manipulating, Dan. And you know what? That person is always going to exist in me. And what I've come to terms with is I ask myself the question every day, am I doing more good than harm in this world? And at the end of the day, I honestly tell myself that I am doing more good than harm. And I do that by constantly asking myself questions and constantly holding myself accountable. But more than holding myself accountable, I surround myself around people that are going to constantly hold me accountable. The guy sitting right over there, CJ, known him since we were kids. He's not the kind of guy that's going to go, great job, Dan, you did great. He gives very little. Sometimes you can't read him. He's like just staring at a piece of stone. You don't know if he's happy, he's sad, mad, if he's going to blow up, whatever. You don't know. But when I do stuff that he doesn't agree with, or that he thinks maybe isn't going to completely benefit somebody else more than it's going to benefit us, he'll ask me, hey, are you sure this is what we want to do? Are you sure this is the direction you want to go in? And I'll ask him, well, why do you say that? And he'll bring up some basic facts, and immediately it's almost like, you're right, scratch it. Literally, I think if our whole focus was just on how much money can you make doing this, I think we'd be making 10 times more money than we're making right now. But because we fight with what's right and surviving, there's this constant battle internally that we know that we're just going to keep doing things for the right reason and let everything else fall in place. So that's question number one. Hope that answered your question. It's probably a little long-winded. Question number two. You speak about helping others has been therapeutic for you. My question is, do you feel people that are facing federal prison are more open to help, or maybe even more vulnerable? This is my fear. I'm so afraid of leaving my family that I think everyone has an angle. So you're asking me, do I feel people, and we've talked about this a lot too, people that are facing federal prison time, do we feel that they are more open or more vulnerable to hear suggestions, to get help? And absolutely yes, on both sides. When somebody is faced with this fear of going to prison, you will see people at an all-time low where they're seeking guidance, they're seeking information, they're seeking answers. A lot of times they're also seeking miracles. And this is where the vulnerability, like being vulnerable is not a bad thing. It's being able to understand that you are vulnerable and being able to decipher what's real, what might be real, and just complete bullshit. You have to have your bullshit sensor on when you're vulnerable, because there's a lot of people in the world, including myself, the old me, I smell vulnerability and it's like blood in the water and I'm getting ready to attack. I go back into my empathetic mode. I'll pretend to be empathetic with you. I'm using all this empathy. And the minute you feel comfortable enough is when we strike. That's what you want to be aware of. And the way to be aware of that is do your homework. Does it sound too good to be true? If someone's giving you guarantees and they're going to promise you RDAP and they're charging you $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, I mean, be very, very, very wary. There's nothing that somebody is going to do for you other than maybe an attorney that has a legal defense team. There's no prison consultant out there that is going to charge you $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, $30,000 that they're going to be able to do other than charge you an enormous amount of money. And we see it all the time. We saw it last week. One of our clients that we sent an invoice to $2,500 for sent me an invoice back that another white-collar prison consultant sent him for $25,000. And it was just ridiculous. And he was about ready to write a check because he felt, well, the fact that they're charging this much, there must be $25,000 worth of value in there, and there's just not. So being able to explain this to somebody and tell them what to look for, be very careful. Same thing when you're hiring your attorney. If your attorney, if you have the option of a federal appointed attorney and you don't feel like you're getting a suffice job and your family wants to pony up a ton of money and go broke and mortgage their house and sell cars and sell all your belongings to go get an expensive attorney, I'm not saying that's the wrong idea. I'm saying do your homework and make sure that this attorney is doing more than just selling you on a bill of goods. Ask them, hold them accountable, have them walk you through what they can do different versus your federal appointed attorney. And then go back to your federal appointed attorney. Don't feel afraid to ask your attorney questions. Go to your appointed attorney and say, hey, Joe Blow attorney wants to charge me $50,000. My family is willing to come up with the money if I really feel it's going to make a difference. What do you think he can do for me, the $50,000 that you can't do for me, being that you're being paid for from the federal government? Get some honest feedback from the attorney. See what he tells you. If you don't ask these questions and you don't hold him accountable, later on you might have ponied up all of that money and ended up with the same outcome. My situation was similar. I had a federal appointed attorney. Halfway through it, once I realized I was actually looking at prison time, I decided it was because I had an appointed attorney. I fired my attorney. His name was Dennis O'Brien. He was an amazing attorney, but I fired him because I felt like if I was paying money for an attorney, I would get a better service. So I went and hired another attorney by the name of Rob Nye, who's also an amazing attorney, but this was a paid attorney. And Rob told me, no guarantees. This is what we're going to work on. And he was a little bit more salesy than my federally appointed attorney, but you got to imagine anybody that has incentive to get you as a client taking money from you has got to use some sales tactic, right? I mean, that's not really manipulation. That's just the reality of life. You go to buy a car, they're going to sell you to some extent. So the end result was I got the same plea with my paid attorney on the pre-indictment plea that was offered to me if I had just accepted the plea from my federal appointed attorney. Now, I ended up with the same plea, but spending the money wasn't the only downside. Yes, I had to spend money, so now I was out of pocket a ton of money. And when they did indict me, they were pissed off because I turned down the pre-indictment plea, and they came full guerrilla. I mean, they kicked in the door, guns on everybody. That would have been avoided if I would have taken the pre-indictment plea early on. They said one of the benefits to working with us now is when we do indict, we're going to let you come in on your terms. When I said, go F yourself, I'm hiring an attorney, well, there was no notice as to when they were coming. It was just knock, knock, door kicks open, everybody's running around the house, guns everywhere, guns on the dogs. A very terrifying experience that could have been avoided if I had more information and more knowledge.
question if you want it.
We got a question in the room. What's the question, CJ?
Let's see. What is one thing you still struggle with day to day? That's from Scott.
Scott Attic?
Yeah.
What's up, Scott? The one thing one of the things that I deal with on the day to day is I have to constantly ask myself, am I doing this for the right reasons? I'm going to tell you what I don't like about what I do. What I don't like about what I do is the politics of it. I don't like that I have to deal with other prison consultants and their bullshit. I don't like that I have to be in a competitive market. I get it. That's part of any business. So I am going to deal with it. It is what it is. But I don't like dealing with it to the point where it pulls so much of my focus and so much of my energy away because of somebody else's mood or what somebody else is going through. I don't like that part of it. And there will be a story made on that at a later date because it is something that has really been pulling on my heart and I don't like it at all. Some of the other things that I really battle with are staying honest to myself and remembering that I don't have it all figured out. I've recently taken on a mentor by the name of Dr. Goulston. I don't know if we have any links in there, Chaz. If you want, put a link for Dr. Goulston. Dr. Mark Goulston has a podcast called Prison Letters. And we reached out to Mark several months ago through his podcast and saying, hey, we would like to submit some of our letters to your podcast for you to read on your podcast. So, of course, he was interested. It's the line of work, one of the things that he does. So upon him reading some of our letters, me and him started to have a conversation. And he started just asking me some really off-the-wall questions, which made me very uncomfortable. He was asking me, almost questioning my motives for doing what I do and the type of person that I am. And really allowed me to take a deep look at myself because I've gotten so comfortable in coaching others that I've really stopped my progression of coaching myself because you can't really self-coach. Maybe some of you can. It doesn't work for me because I just tell myself what I want to hear and I'm a perfect fucking coach. Dealing with Mark really took me out of my box and made me very uncomfortable with and what we did because transparency is very important for me. That's one of the things that keeps me honest. One of the things that I struggle with, Scott, is transparency. So what I did with Dr. Mark was I asked him, would it be okay to record these? Not for any other reason that I might want to view them later on. He's like, sure. So we use Zoom, same thing I use to record my some of my interviews. And after doing this more and more with him, developing an actual relationship, a true mentor-mentee relationship, and really giving this guy credit for getting into my head and not making me feel like he had some ulterior motive. I have nothing to offer this man. This man is he's completely accomplished. He's beyond wealthy. There's nothing that I can do for him in his career that he's going to get from me. He doesn't charge me to be my mentor, so there's no motive there. I originally thought there was, and I kept trying to find it. What's the angle? What's the angle? And when I lowered my guard and I allowed Mark in, it just started flowing. And because we have all of this footage of the last, 10, 15 weeks of footage, I asked him, I was like, hey, this is really good stuff because this is the type of stuff that so many people struggle with. What do you think about me sharing this? So we're actually going to develop a separate channel that Mark's going to kind of be leading. And it's basically going to be my coaching sessions with Mark and how he's helped me journey through where I am and where I feel like I got stuck. And to be honest, since I've been mentoring with Mark, it's allowed me to free up a lot of my mental bandwidth to where I have all of these convoluted thoughts and processes in my mind, and it's allowed me to take a step back and put more focus into what I care about, and that's working with so many of you. So hope that answers your question. CJ will let me know if we have any more questions there. Let's see. Question number 3. How do you deal with the stress of knowing how much people like myself depend on this type of service and content? Does it keep you up at night or has it become just a job? That actually goes really good with the question that Scott just asked. What do I struggle with? I struggle with not wanting what I do just to become a job. I don't want to hear somebody's story on the phone and go, oh boy, I got to hear this same story over and over and over again. Because you guys got to realize a lot of you have very similar situations. It might be a different crime, might be a different amount of money, but for the most part, you're a first-time nonviolent offender for most of you that are going to prison for your first time. So a lot of those concerns are the same, which means I've heard it a million times, yes. But I try to stay true to myself by telling myself, all right, we tell people, when you're going to write your personal narrative or your character reference letters, you don't want it to be a letter that the judge has seen a million times, because that judge is so used to seeing it, he loses his empathy and no longer feels anything when he's reading it. So we try to create something new. Well, I keep that in mind, and I try to do my best to, when I read something or when I talk to you guys, to put myself in like a state of zen to where I'm allowing myself to hear it and process it and forget that what it means to me, because I've heard it so many times. I try to stop myself from finishing your sentences, even though some of the times I know what you're going to say before you say it. And I put myself back in my own shoes in 2014. I put myself back into the fear and the lost area of the journey that I was in then, when I felt like nobody understood, nobody knew what I was going through, there was nobody that I could talk to, and I was completely alone. And when I really allow myself to get lost in that moment, it becomes extremely emotional because I relive what it felt like. And it's a little bit of like PTSD, where you go back to that moment and you know how hard it is for somebody. You know what somebody feels like when they're talking about walking away from their family, or their family leaving them, or them losing everything they've worked so hard to build. Even though there's more to it than that, I know what that initial shock feels like. So I constantly remind myself of, do not let yourself get bothered and feel aggravated or irritated because you have to hear the same story over and over and over again. When I decided to take this on as a career, a bunch of you said the same thing to me. I hope you never lose what it is that you have, because when we watch you on YouTube, you seem so energetic and so alive, and you seem to really care. You seem to relate to what so many of us are going through. And it's because this is the first time in my life that I found something that I'm so beyond passionate about, that I love to do it so much. And the fact that it was able to make a living from it, that was completely on accident. And you all know that because you've watched videos from day one where this was not a business and it was just a YouTube channel. So I try to stay true to what made this to where it is. And I can't do that if I treat it solely like a business. Treating it solely like a business would be to turn my phone off at 6 o'clock at night and not take another phone call till 9 o'clock in the morning. Turn my phone off on Friday night and not take another phone call till Monday. I refuse to ever do that. Granted, I may need to get some help because we have so many phone calls and so many clients that I can't do it alone, but I make myself available 24/7. My daughter's coming into town next week, which I'm fucking super excited about, and I'm going to be available while my daughter's here because I have the rest of my life to spend time with my daughter and my family. You guys, what you're going through, one phone call one phone call could change it all. One phone call can make such a difference because I don't know what your mindset is on that initial phone call. You might hang up the phone and call the next person. You might have a list of 5 prison consultants in front of you. And this doesn't mean I want your business over them. I'm saying I know when I talk to you that I'm going to give you information from my heart, and I'm going to do my best to lead you in the right direction, whether that means become a client or not become a client. I know that I'm going to do my best. I know that my main objective is not to get you to sign up as a client. So because I know that, I feel like I have a responsibility because I know so many of you are back to the question he asked. You're in a vulnerable state of mind where anything that somebody tells you sounds better than what you currently know. So somebody starts making these promises, these accusations, giving you these ridiculous amounts of money that they're going to charge you. I don't want you to be further, I don't want to say victimized because you put yourself in the situation, but I don't want the circumstances of the situation to also allow you to be victimized by somebody out there that's preying on you and your situation. So that's why I stay true and I pick up my phone 24/7. So yes, I lose a lot of sleep at night because I want to make sure that I'm always doing this for the right reasons. I know your stories. I mean, just today we had Sean Cowgill. We're actually going to post this in a blog. Sean Cowgill's father passed away yesterday. He sent us an email from prison. I don't know yet if it was expected. I don't know yet if he was ill, but we received an email from Sean last night that his father passed away and he's not doing so hot. I was fortunate. I didn't have any family members pass away while I was in prison. I can't imagine what that must feel like. I had a pet die while I was in prison, and it devastated me. So to find out your father passed away while you're in prison and you feel so lost, hopeless, and empty, and there's nothing you can do, that is something that creates a really bad vibe in someone's mind. So it's our job, my job, and Sean's not even a client. Sean never paid me a dime. Sean was one of the clients we took on for free because of his financial situation. But because Sean reached out to me in email, sure, I've read those emails a million times. I have clients that lose parents all the time. I have viewers through core links that lose family members all of the time. I could have said, oh, let me give Sean the same response I'll give somebody else. But I'd stop. I put myself into the moment of what Sean must be going through, and I try my hardest to feel his empathy, to put myself into what's hurting inside of him, and then I discover it. I go in and I seek it, and I'm able to see it. I can almost feel like whatever's wrong. I can feel that cancer. I can feel that hurt, and I feel like I have the ability to, and a lot of times, fix it just with the power of words. And you know what I told Sean? I said, Sean, before prison, you were a bottom-feeding drug addict. You were somebody that nobody knew if they were going to make it to the next day or not. Nobody knew if you were going to show up or not. You weren't trustworthy. Your father possibly was dying then, dying now. I don't know. But I know as a father, I would never want my child to die before me. I would take much more grace in knowing that my daughter outlives me, because that's the natural selection, correct? Get old, we die. We don't want to watch our children die. It doesn't seem fair. So I said to Sean, maybe, just maybe, if you look at the circumstances for what it is, you put yourself in prison, you feel like a piece of shit because you're not there right now for your father's funeral. But maybe your father died at peace, knowing that most of his life screw-up son was finally in a good spot. He's in prison. Sean's made so much progress in prison. He's developed courses. He's developed an AA class in there that didn't exist in the prison system. And Sean's dad may finally have the understanding that when you're released from prison, you might finally have beat these demons that have kept you down for so long. And maybe that was why he was in prison. That could have been a beautiful thing that his father, one of his last memories was. So it's all how you look at it. It's out of your control in the immediate circumstance. So the words that we choose to say to somebody can make or break the situation or the mind frame they're in. So keeping myself real with that and remembering what I think people are going through isn't always the truth. It takes a lot of questions and answers in getting to know somebody before you can develop that. It's not just client consultant relationship. There really is a deeper bond through coaching that gets developed. And any of you that have been working with us for a while, 100% know that. If you've taken full advantage of Jenny and the coaching program we have clients that's all they care about once they get started is the day-to-day coaching that Jenny offers. And it's included. I mean, it's not like something we charge extra for. It's something that's included. So it's not these bells and whistles that we tack on. We have found a way to touch thousands of people and change them from somebody riddled with pain to somebody prepared with tools and necessary steps to go on.
Got a question.
Got another question.
Kind of off topic.
What do you got, CJ?
How is law enforcement treated in the feds? Do they go to a lower camp?
Law enforcement's treated fine. If you go to a low security prison, camp or low, I've met, you guys saw, I did a video with Justin, what was his name? Justin Poe? No. I can't remember his name. He was a police officer in New York City. He's been in prison for a long time. He was the guy that shoved a broomstick or a nightstick or something up somebody's rear end. And it was a racial issue because Justin, the police officer, was a white guy and the victim was a black man. Justin ended up getting 20 years in prison. And I met him. He's on the tail end of a sentence now, and he has no issues in prison. We have another client by the name of Michael Freshko, which is on our blog. He was a police lieutenant, I believe, or a captain, who is now in prison. He went into prison for basically taking guns through airport security to hand them off to somebody else that was taking them to other countries. He's in prison. He's not having a hard time. He's actually in RDAP right now and making progress. So just because you're a cop does not mean you're going to be looked at poorly in prison. Now, maybe if you go to a higher security prison, might be a different issue. Question number 4. You come off very passionate when you speak, which seems real and authentic. Is it? Yes, but it is something that I have to struggle with, because when you start doing something over and over and over again, it becomes routine. It becomes second nature. It becomes no thought required. So I try to not allow that to happen by keeping the moments real and by not having scripted information. I don't sit out here and write outlines of bullshit we're going to talk about, which is going to lead you in a direction that's going to end at the end of the path with, don't forget to sign up. As much as I love Tony Robbins, you go to a Tony Robbins presentation and does this big speech, and at the end of the speech, you got the people in the back row ready to take your credit card. We want clients. We're in business to make money just like everybody else. But at the end of the day, we do this for the right reason. So I'm very passionate about what I speak about. And I hope that comes through in these videos. I really do put my emotion into it, which is why I trail off sometimes and I get off subject, because I just get caught up in what we're talking about, which to me, that's something that I've studied in other people. When I see them kind of getting off topic a little bit, it tells me that no, they're not scatterbrained. They're very passionate about what they talk about. So I've got people like CJ and the internet and little post-it notes all over my computer like, stay on topic, stay on topic. So I do my best to stay on topic, but I also do my best to stay true to what allowed this to grow to where it is today, and that is being passionate and real about what I talk about. That's why we're doing this video right now. That's why we're talking about this email, because this email is a great example of transparency, and that I hope to be your consultant. I hope to be your prison life coach, but I also want you to know that I don't have all of the answers. But I promise you, together we will navigate and we will come up with the answers that are going to be best suited for you. This is not a cookie cutter platform. There's not templates used. It's what works for you isn't necessarily going to work for him. So get your mind out of the more money I spend, the better the outcome, because that's what got us into this position to begin with. Last question, question number 5. How have you been able to keep old ways from your past lifestyle from resurfacing? I fear that if I go to prison, I will return with this label on my back, which might cause me to lose focus and make future mistakes. Please explain how you've been able to control this. That might be the toughest one at all, guys. Old habits die hard. Very true statement. Whatever your nature is right now, doesn't mean you have to be defined by it. Doesn't mean it's going to dictate what you're going to do. But if you just think you want to change and you don't put in work and effort to make it happen, if you don't have others holding you accountable, if you don't come up with a new routine to create new habits, then yes, whatever it was that got you in trouble to begin with is going to get you in trouble again. If you're one of those people out there right now that feels like, hey, I'm going to prison, it's unfair, the system took advantage of me, I don't deserve this, this isn't fair for my children, this isn't fair for my wife, this isn't fair for my husband, whatever the circumstances, we all go through that. But at some point, you got to snap out of that and go, what did I do to put myself here? I'm the one that hurt my wife. I'm the one that hurt my children. I'm the one that hurt my husband. I'm the one that created this horrible situation that everybody else now has to go with me because I'm such a screw up. I am the fuck up in the room, not the government, not everybody else, not the person that told on you. I don't care if you're in a conspiracy and someone ratted you out. If you knew what was going on and you turned a blind eye to it, you did it for either money. And it's not always, money's not always the motivator. Sometimes it's just power. There's people that like power. They like people looking up to them. They like being the man. They like having the nice car. They like everybody coming to their house for the Super Bowl party. They like to always have the big presentation. I suffer with that. I love being the center of attention. So what I have to do is question myself is, what I'm doing right now, being the center of attention, is this hurting me and hurting other people? Or is this allowing me to create a vessel to help other people? Is there justification in there? Am I finding ways to justify what I decided to do as a living? Probably, maybe. But at the end of the day, when I look at the risk versus reward, the reward is I'm not going to go back to prison for doing this. I'm not going to lie to people by doing this. And I'm potentially going to put people in a better situation than what they were currently in without ever meeting me. Those factors alone are going to allow me to, whatever it is that's motivating me to do this, to keep doing it because I love how that feels. That is therapeutic to me. It makes me feel so good to be able to legitimately help other people And we don't just give you insight. We've created programs. We have an accountability program. We have a coaching program. We're creating software. We're going to be co-authoring in some books very soon. We've got some amazing articles coming out that are, none of that brings in money. There's no money to be made in any of that because I don't ask for money. Money is not my motivator. Now, the fact that I'm getting sued and I need money to fight my lawsuit in court from a competitor, okay. So that requires me to have money. If it wasn't for that, if people just loved each other and people said, hey, why'd you do this? Here's the answer. Let's move on. Let's see what we can do to help each other. The world would be a better place, but it's not yet. And a lot of you that are watching this right now, you think you want help. You think you're going to be part of the solution, but really you're still part of the problem. You're not opening up and talking to people about your situation. You still want to pretend like your crime didn't happen. You don't want anybody to know because of how embarrassed you're going to feel. Fucking eat that embarrassment. Wear it. Put it on your shirts. Wear it. Get a tattoo that says, I live with embarrassment. Practice humility. We talk about it all the time. And the more you practice anything, the better you're going to get. Which means if you're practicing hiding and you're practicing pretending like everything's fine, you just continue to be a fraudster and you're continuing to perpetuate what ultimately got you in this situation to begin with. Don't go looking for the person that's going to talk your lingo, that's going to tell you what you want to hear, that's going to high five you. Paying that prison consultant 15, 20 grand because he plays golf on the weekends and goes to a country club for dinner and grew up with a silver spoon does not mean he understands your situation. If you want somebody to feed you all that bullshit and tell you what a good job you're doing, go for it. If you want somebody that's going to ask you hard questions, that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to make you feel a little shitty from time to time, but ultimately is not only going to help you possibly serve a shorter sentence, but is going to help you understand and embrace this journey and make it the best possible, that's when you call me. Otherwise, I probably can't help you. We have any other questions in there, CJ?
Yes. Let's see.
Because I'm out of questions.
Jessie Ruiz, question is, he's got the minimum 24-month sentence.
Minimum 24-month sentence.
Still get 6 months for RDAP, or does he get any more halfway?
All right, so Jesse's got a question. Jesse's question is, he's sentenced to 24 months, and he wants to know if he gets 6 months off for RDAP. Well, Jesse, that depends, and that's something we can help you with. We need some more information, but here's what that's based on. The quick answer is yes and no. When you enter prison, when you get there, if RDAP starts within 2 or 3 weeks of you getting to the prison and you qualify for RDAP, then yes, there's a good chance you'll get the 6 months off. If the program, because usually most RDAP programs start every 60 to 90 days. If you get to the prison and you just missed the cutoff date for the next available class, and it doesn't start for 2 months, then more than likely you will not get any time off for the program because you also have to have a minimum of 4 months in the federal halfway house. I don't know, everybody got stuck on the 6 months. Everybody thinks that the prison has to give you 6 months halfway house if you complete RDAP. It's not 6 months. That's misinformation from people not doing their homework and due diligence. If you complete RDAP, you have to have at least 4 months remaining on your sentence when you finish the program that takes place in the halfway house. So if you're sentenced to 24 months and it takes you 2 or 3 months to get in the program, after your good time and the 10 months it takes you to do the program, you're not going to have 4 months left. That's why you won't qualify for the 6 months off for taking RDAP itself. So in a perfect world, if you get there just in time, you get 6 months off for the program and 4 months for the halfway house, plus your good time, you do RDAP and you go home. That's the ideal situation. So part of what we do as prison consultants, and what every prison consultant should be doing, is we do our due diligence. When you hire us as your consultant, we contact the prison, we find out when the next RDAP class starts. If it does not coincide with your self-surrender, we have a motion prepared that will get submitted to the sentencing judge asking to change your surrender date based on to when the program guideline start date is, to give you the best chance available to not just get out of prison sooner, but to take advantage of the program to find all these awesome tools and exercises that I promise you you're probably not utilizing in your life right now. So intentions can change. My intentions were to take RDAP, get in and out as quick as possible, to come home as soon as possible. What changed for me was, luckily, that still happened. I ended up only serving 13 months on 42 months, but the benefit that I took from RDAP and how I allowed it to impact my life, because I was willing to lower my guard, and because I got to a point in my life where I realized I don't have all the answers and that I need somebody else's help to solve my problems. When I allowed that thought process to enter into my mind, everything changed. If I would have served 30 months out of my 42 months, I think I would still be the same person I am right now. It wasn't just because I served a short sentence. There's a lot of people out there that serve short sentences. They get out of prison and they go right back to prison. I spoke to my co-defendant the other day. He just got out of prison, and we have two different experiences. He hates prison. He's blaming the prison system for his situation, and I'm not here to say he's right or wrong, but I chose a different path, which allows me to forgive myself, allows me to forgive anybody else that may have ever caused me harm, because now when I tell people I'm sorry for what I did, I'm not telling you sorry because I want you to forgive me. I'm telling you sorry because I need to move on. What you do with the information I give you is up to you. You can either say, great, I forgive you, or you can say, Dan, go fuck yourself. And either way, I said what I needed to say, and I can move on. It's more stuff off my back.
Question.
Another question.
Do you know what qualifies someone to be self-surrender, or as opposed to being remanded?
Typically, if you're a nonviolent offender, if you're not a flight risk, if you're, a U.S. citizen, if you're giving them any reason to detain you and think that you're going to disappear, then you're probably not going to be able to self-surrender. Now, however, even if you are completely capable of self-surrendering, you're nonviolent, you've got no risk factor, you're not trying to flee the country, you're not a danger to anybody, the judge can still deny it and still remand you at sentencing or before that. Most of the clients that we deal with, we just had one, right, last week that got remanded.
July 17th, I think it was.
Yeah, we had a client that got remanded that we were surprised that the judge remanded him at sentencing. We thought for sure he would be a self-surrender, but that judge remands everybody. And we hear that all the time too. Well, this judge remands everybody. 90% of our clients self-surrender, and we help increase and create the influence to give the judge a reason to allow them to self-surrender. We really do work extremely hard with our clients to create a different picture from what the judge is used to seeing that has many, many benefits. But in this case, it did not benefit the client. He still had to be remanded. So it is a possibility. Is that it?
I think we're ready to go.
That's it on questions. If anybody else has any other questions, you better type it right now, because I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds, because I always say that, and then right as I hit sign off, a question pops up, but it's too late. So if you've got a question, ask me right now. Waiting. We got like a 30-second timer, Ches? No? We just pretend? We're going to give
20
it
seconds left.
20 seconds left, Ches says. Well, I'm going to get ready to sign off of this. Make sure you follow us, guys, on social media. Come check out Instagram. Did you take an Instagram photo today, Ches?
I posted a video already.
Ches already posted a video of this on Instagram. Fucking man's amazing. All right, guys. No more questions. I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time, Communities Method. People helping people one day at a time. I love every single one of you guys, and I will see you all on Wednesday. Peace, everybody. Be safe.